The old St. Andrews Foundry building was technically the first indoor hockey arena in St. Andrews. The Foundry went out of business at the turn of the last century. According to Barry Murray, the building was moved from where David Sullivan's place is now, down to the end of Patrick Street, in the month of November 1901 or 1902. It was a three-story building. They took the doors out, and the windows out of it, and the floors out of it. So when they dropped it on the ground at the end of Patrick Street, someone said, "Wouldn't it be brilliant if we brought some fresh water in here and flooded it? We could have a super skating rink." They flooded it somehow with fresh water, and it froze, and they skated and played hockey in there as long as they could. So it became technically the first indoor hockey arena in St. Andrews. From the Beacon, December 21st, 1911. New ice rink. Through the kindness of the O'Neill family, the boys of the town have been able to source a piece of land for an open-air rink. The rink has been laid out, and all that is necessary now is to flood it and get ice. In January 1933, Dr. J.F. Worrell wrote in the St. Croix Courier that the history of skating rinks in St. Andrews during the past few years is really the history of the dreams and schemes, discouragements and successes of one young man. From the time of the inauguration of hockey in a small building on Water Street, where the ice surface was probably less than half regulation size, and where room for only a few spectators would be provided, on through a succession of outdoor rinks, adding improvements from year to year, up until the present when he sees his hopes realized. This young man has persisted in the idea that a real rink could be built for the people of St. Andrews, and that someday it would be built. The group of St. Andrews hockey fans, headed by William O'Neill, who were responsible for the construction of the open-air rink here last winter, have been working assiduously for several weeks past and have effected great improvements in the property, which is now probably the best equipped arena of its type in New Brunswick. For night playing, the ice surface is illuminated by 18 300-watt electric lights of the most modern type. The light covers the playing surface, measuring 175 feet by 75 feet. The St. Andrews team now offers visiting players and spectators comfortable and convenient accommodation. Room for 300 spectators is provided in the enlarged grandstand down to the left side of the playing surface, which is now nearly 200 feet long. The front of the arena has been greatly improved by the construction of a new entrance containing a ticket office and ladies' and gentlemen's dressing rooms. On the opposite side of the rink from the grandstand is another new building, divided into dressing rooms for 2 teams, and a smaller chamber housing the combination radio and phonograph machine, and a transmitter through which announcements may be made through a loudspeaker which is suspended over the center of the ice. The water supply has also been improved by extending the piping direct to the new rink. The arena from 1932 was cedar shingled. Imagine bundles and bundles of shingles and thousands of nails that would have to be driven by hand. A quiet, unassuming chap he is, who will accept no credit for what he has done, but says it was just his idea, that was all, and that the rest of the boys did as much as he. Many names might be mentioned, but after all, it is Bill's rink. And the people of St. Andrews and of surrounding districts, who also had their share in the work, feel that as long as there is a stick of this building standing, it will stand as a monument to the pluck and enterprise and public spirit of one of our native sons, Bill O'Neill. Bill with only one eye. A goalie with one eye. His eye was permanently closed. But imagine being a goalie.
But, of course, he had a great defense out front, said Cecil Williamson. Cecil was a defenseman.
All the work of making these alterations has been done by the interested fans themselves during the evenings, and their extent may be judged from the fact that expenditures of materials will be over $1,000. The ice game took on a new lease of life last year. High hopes are held for the St. Andrews hockey team this season. A promising recruit will be H.B. Hashey, who was transferred to the biological station here a few weeks ago. Under his coaching, the team is making excellent progress. The following comprise the squad which has been working out: H. McCoyd, R. Graham, Tilly MacNichol, Tom MacNichol, R. Johnson, G. Johnson, L. McCoyd, J. Graham, W. O'Neill, J. O'Neill, Hashey, Stinson, Williamson, and Love. Sport generally appears to be enjoying healthy popularity in St. Andrews, with the improvement of the rink following closely upon the completion of the new Scout Gymnasium.
Well, because they didn't have a full ice-making plant for quite a while there, what they did was they flooded the ice surface. And it was basically probably a 30-gallon drum that was put on a dolly with wheels and a tap on the bottom and a rag at the bottom. And so that had to be walked up and down. But before you did that, you had to get the ice shavings and clippings off the ice. So people had to go out on the ice with long scrapers to scrape the ice and then to flood the ice. Well, I don't really remember staff at these rinks. It was rink rats, and these were teenage boys, and there was a whole hierarchy on how you became a rink rat. So there was a head rink rat, and there was a lieutenant, and what the boys got from this was you got into ice skating free. You might get given a ticket for a hockey game once in a while, but it was closely guarded and regulated how one became a rink rat. But you had to be there and you had to work. So the cleaning of the ice surface, particularly during hockey games, was done by the rink rats. The cleaning of the arena, just the guard, was done by the rink rats.
Conleys Arrows played out of St Andrews in the local 4-team men's league. In 1937, they defeated the St. John Junior Pontiacs, who were reigned provincial junior champions. At 6:30 Thursday morning, 11 trucks and 55 men were on hand in the Russell Gravel Pit Bayside to start the day's work. And a great day's work it was. 105 loads of an excellent quality gravel, approximating 260 yards, were hauled to the arena and spread. The surface was leveled to a nicety and will be rolled down hard with a heavy roller. This gravel, which contains a large proportion of sand, will pack down hard and smooth. It will make an excellent foundation for ice and also assure a firm, dry floor for the various uses to which the arena may be put in the summer months. Of course, the highlight of the day was dinner served in the pit at noon. Picture 55 hungry but happy men ranged in a semicircle on comfortable settees, a huge fire in the center, glowing in accordance with the best traditions, 2 wash boilers brimming full of delicious fish chowder, gallons of coffee, heaps of pies and donuts, cases of ginger ale, boxes of cigars, cigarettes, and bags of candy. Is it not a picture to make one's mouth water? The men who took part in this latest community rally all expressed themselves as having had a whale of a time. With the sandbank 100 feet high as a background, the noble St. Croix of deep cerulean blue sparkling in the autumn sunlight in front, and the amusing antics of diners, boys again for a day, the setting was made to order for Bill O'Neill and his movie camera. He took several reels of pictures, which will be shown later in Technicolor to his friends about town. The only expense items in connection with this wonderful rally were the food for the men, the gas and oil for the trucks, and the gravel, which cost 5 cents a yard. It is evident that the community spirit in St. Andrews is still very much alive, and that interest in the hockey and skating arena is as strong as ever. You ask a man to go out today and shovel sand all day as a volunteer. That's a very steep hill coming up out of that pit for the truck. I remember going out to work with my dad when he drove a dump truck, and the truck would be in low gear going roar, 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 roar up that steep hill, and I recall him saying, "I hope we don't break an axle or we'll go down backwards."
There were a lot of unemployed men in this community and lots of other communities in Canada. And I remember growing up in the 50s, it was not uncommon to go downtown and see 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 men downtown, just an off chance they might get a half day's worth of work here, there, or wherever. And in between, I mean, everyone will tell you about the games they played. The bank, out in front of the bank, there used to be 2 park benches. And the men would play penny toss. And they'd walk back and put their heels on what we now call the curb of the road. So 8 men would line up and they'd take a penny. And the penny had to hit the foundation of the bank and bounce out. But the one whose penny was the closest to the bank after everybody had tossed a penny, he scooped up the handful of pennies. Well, a fellow might get 17 cents in the course of a day, and that might buy him a pack of smokes. And I just remember we had all these characters who were unemployed, who were, pretty good people all the way around. And their families, it seemed, used to get the rink rat positions first. And people like Bill O'Neill would play cozy with that, but if he knew that your dad was unemployed, if he knew that you wouldn't be able to afford to come and go skating or wouldn't be able to afford to come to a hockey game, then you got to become a rink rat before somebody else. You worked, but at the end of the work, there was a reward for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the old rink. And there they are outside. That rink burned down in 1939
Okay.
because the new rink didn't get used until 1946 or 7, and they didn't wear those uniforms back then. I think that's the early rink. Those there. Oh, see, Tommy MacNichol is one of those ones out there I could see, because when they stop, Tommy is distinctive. He was short, bandy-legged, good little hockey player. This is Tommy right here. And he almost looks the same than later on. And,
That's Ken.
that might have been Uncle Jim there. I kind of think that's Uncle Jim on the right-hand side there.
This one?
I think so. No, these fellas are, I just don't know who they are. I have a guess who they should be, the whole bunch of them, but I don't know who's who. I went in and out of the next rink many, many, many times, and I don't remember it looking like that one. Remember, there's features that are the same, but it's just went through the doors and you hit the ticket office. They had a balcony that ran all the way around the rink, up above the service. See that? Whoa! See that house right there? Mm-hmm. This one here?
Yeah.
That's my grandfather built that. This is called Hosmer's Hill going up there, and you can see right straight up over O'Neill's field, right up to his place on Park Street. Right up there. Yeah, that green one there. See, you've got the color in it. That's the color of his house. And there's the dormer that I used to swing out every once in a while. My scariest moment was I went up to fix something on the roof one time, and the roof was wet with shingles, and my feet went up under me, and I came down sailing right across that roof, and I reached in and grabbed a finger hold inside that dormer and hung there, and then pulled myself back in. And I wouldn't go up the roof again unless I tied myself with the rope.
There it was.
Scared me. When those fellows are coming out of that rink, that had to be coming out of the old rink. It had to be, because there was no other teams ever come out of the old rink. In 1939, the rink burned down. I remember watching the fire out of a bathroom under the house we lived in. My father lifted me up. And then, of course, they built the other.
Tell you a story about that. The night it burnt, my father got a new suit for Christmas. And there's 2 pair of pants. He says, now what do I do with 2 pair of pants?
Yes, sir.
Anyway, the fire siren went. So where he went to the fire, he came home, had new pants on, I had to hold him. Mom said, aren't you glad you had 2 pair of pants? No.
Yeah.
That's how I remember things. I put things like that together.
Yeah.
So they must have been making a jig for those big
Yeah.
arcs. Snow on the ground, they're all working with their bare hands. Could you imagine that being done without the engineering capabilities we have today, without hydraulics, without cranes?
They built it, but they never put ice in it. All through the war, it was used as a armories or an type thing. And it was after the war that they started putting ice in there.
I think that's the one behind, that long house? It's a great big long blue house. It was in behind that. Yeah, that barn there. Fonzie Donahue used to keep his horse in there.
The second one was put up in 20-some days or something, they said.
Yes, very quickly.
So
A lot of people wanted to work on it. My dad worked a lot on it because, remember I told you it wasn't permanent? And he happened to be home then because he'd be laid off every year.
yes, yeah.
And he just went down working, and everybody just went down and worked on it. It's quite amazing the way they used to put those bones up, get
Oh, it's a
the
bit,
people rolling in, helping out, and people that
yeah.
had to have somebody knew what they're doing, but
This is colour film, which is extraordinary.
it is.
Because Kodachrome didn't come out until 1935.
You see, Bill he owned the theater, so showed movies, so he had the whole movie things. And
Look at the laminating the arches there, eh?
Yeah. Oh, boys, everybody in town worked on that,
Yeah.
building that.
Yeah. That's where
Yeah.
Rich Rugby Show used to be over there.
Yeah.
When they had it going, I was just a kid, and volunteer labor used to go down after school and paint the boards for the
Yeah.
hockey season. They had artificial ice in that rink there before they had artificial ice in York Arena in Fredericton.
Yeah. And that's harder to skate on, too, artificial ice. It's ordinary ice. Look at them, see?
Yeah.
Everybody
Pulling
works.
something up.
Yeah.
And I'm agreeing with Jeff, when you think about the construction technology, those aren't engineers, those are all people who worked on building boats and building houses, and they certainly seemed to know what they were doing. And then just look at the block and tackle now to raise the supports.
That's great, isn't it?
And of course that's because of the shipbuilding tradition here. Everybody used block and tackle to build a ship, so they would know how to operate those.
That's the point. Good.
Actually, the O'Neill family had a small shipbuilding business down at Indian Point too.
Look at them putting the arches up. And that's something.
We used to have carnivals and everything. And another thing I was telling the other day that I'd forgotten about, they used to have the pig race. Do you remember the pig race on the
No.
ice? They had a pig on the ice and tried to get a hold of it. Yeah.
Pigs are difficult to get hold of anyway.
That's right.
At the
Yeah.
best
And
time,
sometimes
yeah.
you had it, and he'd slide away from his pig race.
Everything's volunteer.
Yeah.
It's volunteer, everything's no machines.
one thing I do remember about the new rink was running down to run in one day, and I just got to the door and it slammed open and knocked me ass over tea kettle. And it was Sonia Henny who knocked me over, and she called me a ragamuffin and everything you could think of.
Skating,
Katie's Cove? Okay.
Katie's Cove.
Oh yeah, there's the O'Neill's barn.
Rosen. That didn't happen very often. That's the bathhouses at Katie's Cove. The original bathhouses.
Oh yeah, that's the bathing beach side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We weren't allowed on that side.
And no snow.
No. No snow in the background either.
I never
Yeah.
skated on it, did you?
Oh, I played hockey.
On Katie's Cove?
Yeah.
You did?
Yes. One day we were out there and Bobby McClay, he was the fastest one. He put his skates on faster than anybody else. You leave your boots to get down the O'Neill Road and put your skates on down at that end and then take your boots off and then skate up where it got smooth. And you'd be on. Bobby was the first one going. One day he was going up just like, there's these windrows across it at different places.
Yeah.
He'd over one and he'd way ahead of us. All of a sudden even over one disappeared.
Water.
It was open on the other side. Down he went. He come up the same hole. We hauled him out. There's a fella in the truck just sitting looking over at O'Neill's farm. I don't know who it was. We got him up there and got him in the cabin of the aft, and he took him home. That's the last hour. We stayed and played hockey.
Oh, they've got hockey sticks there. They're having a good go around there. There's a couple of gals standing right in the middle of it all. They're skating around them.
Dad, when I was a kid, I wanted to skate, and the boys wanted to play hockey right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And look at the dog down there
Yeah,
enjoying
yeah.
the fun. But the girls being typical girls.
Oh, yeah, they
were
wanna be
right
right-
in the midst of it because
That's
that's
true.
where the boys were.
That's true, Jeannie.
I would have liked to have lived back then. Seriously.
But that looks like O'Neill's barn.
Yeah, it's O'Neill. I'm pretty sure that's O'Neill's
Yeah.
barn, and it's up over the track. There's the change.
No trees there.
Changing houses for the
Yeah.
swimming. Boy, you cut a few trees down. It sure looks different. Go look at the golf course now.
Now, that's a story I haven't heard. Skating on Katie's Cove.
Allison, Pickle MacNichol, is a product of the sporting environment that is St. Andrews, New Brunswick. The Shiretown native enjoyed a hockey career that spanned at least 5 leagues, 4 provinces, and 2 decades. From a start as a New Brunswick high school player, he worked his way up the hockey ladder to junior play in Saskatoon, intermediate play with his hometown Senators, senior play in London, Ontario, and Allen Cup championship play with the RCAF Flyers in Ottawa. He's well known for his coaching and player development contributions, but is best known for his uncanny ability at scoring goals and winning scoring championships wherever his skates took him during those 20 years of active play. Pickle helped the Ottawa RCAF Flyers to the Allen Cup in 1942, led team in playoff scoring with 42 goals in 19 games. He coached and played for the St. Andrews Senators from 1947 through 51, helping the team to the intermediate New Brunswick title in 1950. He helped the St. Andrews High School to the NB Interscholastic Championship in 1935. He also won the scoring title of the Michigan-Ontario Senior Hockey League in 1940. He was enrolled in the New Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame June 4, 1977.
The old arena is a place where people my age, that's where we spent most of our time. We lived just 2 blocks up from there. So even in the days when they had major hockey games in the old Quonset hut, I could lay in bed at night and I'd know the score because the noise coming from the spectators when the Senators scored.
See, that's the Senators hockey team.
There's Kent Ross.
There's Kent Ross, there's Bud Stewart.
Harry MacNichol.
Harry MacNichol.
Pickle MacNichol. Kent
It's-
Ross.
Kent Ross is the one in the back there. Not Sandy Miller, is it?
Could be.
Could be Sandy Miller, but I don't know.
That's
Kent
Kent Ross.
Kent Ross.
He was one of the later owners of the cottage craft.
I think that's Doug Henderson.
Allison MacNichol.
Well, that's Pickle.
Allison Pickle.
Yeah.
That's Pickle.
Always known as Pickle.
Pickle and Bud Stewart right beside Pickle.
Bud Stewart, that the fingers being pointed.
And that's Bill O'Neill standing up there with the head on. I'm pretty sure.
Looks like Bill.
Yeah.
Now, they used to put a special train on when the Senators were in the playoffs in other parts of the province at one time in life. They were a real good hockey team. That was after the war when all the young fellows came from the war, from the forces, and they got together and played hockey, and they had a
and
good
they were
hockey
good
team.
teams. Yeah.
So that was train going off because they go on a trip, and we've got some film of them.
Might be, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Old Gloucester, that's up in Bathurst.
Yeah.
There we go.
Looks like Tommy McNichol. Bathurst, yeah.
That's where it is.
Gloucester was the hotel in Bathurst because
Yeah,
I
they
used to
got
stay
there to
there
play-
years
play
ago.
hockey.
So that's your hockey team there. There's a McFarlane there, Barney,
Yeah.
Tommy. Slow down there.
Yeah.
See, that's Barney McFarlane. In the back with the felt hat's Harry.
And there's Jim, your uncle, right up there in the back.
And Peter McFarlane,
Yeah.
George Higgins.
George Higgins, yeah.
There's Pickle and there's Doug Henderson,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Frank Hahn,
yeah,
and Bill.
yeah.
That's Tommy McNichol right there. St. Andrews Senators. After the war, probably in 46, they started playing, and they played in the New Brunswick Hockey League. And actually, the Senators won the New Brunswick title a couple of years there. Pickle MacNichol was the big person behind that. He He had gone away as a young man to play junior hockey in Ontario. And I can still remember, it was a 2-game total goal series. And Bathurst came to town here and won the first game down here by quite a handy score. So really going back to Bathurst, it was impossible for the Senators to go up there and win. And Pickle MacNichol, who was a fantastic hockey player, said to the team, he told me at the time, see, there's Pickle right there. That's my Uncle Jim right there. That's Hughie's father. He said to the other lines, you just keep them from scoring and we'll score all the goals we need. And they beat Bathurst something like, I'm just taking it out of my head, 10-1 or something. Not too long after that, I played for that hockey team. I was in high school, and Pickle called and said, you're playing hockey tonight. Be down here. I said, who? I played for the high school. I said, who are we playing, Pickle? St. John Drydock's team. I said, oh my God, Pickle, they'll kill us. No, you're playing for the Senators tonight, he said. So I can see Pickle, I can see Uncle Jim, I see Tommy MacNichol. That's Uncle Jim there, see, right there.
Uncle Jim with the hat on the back.
Yeah. That was right over here on the side, was George Higgins, who was a manager or something of the team. He would be Gordy Higgins' brother, Dr. Gordy Higgins here in town. My Uncle Jim, he was one of these rangy players, and after the war he became a defenseman because, slowed down. I remember going and seeing the games.
I was never a rink rat, but I watched them, played cards with them. But my grandfather was the ice maker to the old rink rats. He used to tell some awful tales. He was Tracy Johnson. One my grandfather told the most was he would play some awful tricks on them. Anyhow, he'd say to the boys after skating Friday night, you clean up quickly, I'll let you have a little game of shimmy. They'd all get on the ice 5 minutes and turn the lights off. Okay, things like that. But there was a big hole in the back of the arena. When they scraped it, they dumped the shavings in it. It melted, it was like a well. My grandfather was an ventriloquist, and they'd be dumping in, and someone would holler, let me out, help me! And they'd panic and run and get Tracy, and there's someone down in the well. Things like that,
first rink, they just depended on the weather to be cold. There was no artificial ice making. Because it was used year-round. We didn't have a large meeting place in the community. So when the ice came out, there was a concrete floor in there, and the building was used year-round. So
I remember as a small boy going in those upper balconies and being quite timid because the floors were planked in such a way there was a gap between the floorboards and you could see down through all the way to the ice from some of them.
And that thing was full when they had those hockey teams, and Barbara Ann and Sonia Heaney were in there. God, you couldn't, there wasn't room for anything. They had balconies all around it. They were loaded. Now, they would condemn it for you couldn't put that many people up there.
A winter carnival, an ice carnival.
costume carnival, I would think.
So I'll put them in.
The girl on the left has skates on.
Come on, it's carnival.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That was always a big thing.
Yes. Oh, yes. The kids loved it.
Still doing it.
The winter activities, and I think you've got a lot here on the Senators and the hockey teams. There were NHL teams that were brought here as well. The New York Rangers played here a number of times. The Montreal Canadiens played here a number of times. The Toronto Maple Leafs played a number of times. And normally when these teams came to play, they came because they were invited by people like Bill O'Neill. Bill O'Neill and others here had connections in the Professional Hockey League. So Mr. O'Neill bought the Watt building, and he connected the two, and that became the O'Neill complex.
That was the domed one that was down on Ernest Street.
Yeah.
The second one.
Yeah.
Was there when we came in the 70s. I remember that. I think it was the town barn though then. And then, because in 76, the RCMP musical ride came here, and that's where all the horses were, because I just practically lived up there the days that they were here. Oh my goodness, yes, I went and saw horses every day, all day long.
It was the horses, not the mountains, was it?
No, I was too young to bother with the Mounties. It was the horses. I'm an animal lover. So, it's the horses.
Well, of course, this one it's decommissioned at this point. When it was condemned, there was a whole question here about snow load and whether or not the building would survive.
When they condemned the old arena in 1960, we couldn't believe it because it looked good to us.
And it was around that period of time when the Dunn Foundation got actively involved. And between the condemning of this building and the construction of what we now call the W.C. O'Neill Arena, we reverted back to outdoor ice surface. And there was one where the Legion Hall building is now, on the corner of Princess Royal and Queen. And they were operated by the town. They scraped them. They had little huts you could change in. They had a hot fire. And in the meantime, the Dunn Foundation said that it would build the new arena.
Remember they were trying to raise money to build that, Nancy, and someone went to see Lady B, and she says, I'll build it. Provided that has a movie theater and a rink and a curling rink, and told her to bring her back plans. They took back plans that were pretty bare boned, and she said that wasn't good enough. There's Tommy.
Pickle again.
Tommy's and everything. Right there, that fellow right there, yeah.
Yeah, elbow out to us.
Tommy was the, he was the ice man and everything in the rink there down there for a long time.
They were building that and they were building the community college at the same time. I know Fitz from Fred were had the contract for both buildings.
We didn't go up much when they were building. We had that off year that we had to play hockey where the Legion Hall is.
Yeah.
The town made an outdoor rink there. The pillars always blocked the view. I mean, it wasn't often that you had that many people that it blocked. I mean, I referee a lot of big games. Games you couldn't get another. Back in the days when people smoked in the arena, by the third period, the night was blue. You could cut it with a knife, and but it would be packed at the rafters. I mean, those are good old days. I mean, I refereed senior hockey for 30 years, over 30 years. See, it opened in '62.
It was built on a good foundation, even though that area had never been developed before, and some people thought I've heard stories that people were concerned that it wouldn't be firm enough to hold up a building, but if you walk in that building, even today, the girders that are in there are excessively large. There have been a lot of 1967 project arenas where the construction materials were of a much lighter construction, and they're long gone. This building, you look at those steel supports for the roof, they're massive, and I think it was overbuilt intentionally, and as a consequence, 50 years downstream, we still have the place. Well, actually more than 50 years now, 55 years now.
Opened in 1962, same year as the trade school. Because I think what the thing was at the time, Lady B said, if you people put that community college up here, I will build an arena. So they opened pretty close together. And Bill O'Neill was the first manager.
Yes, sir.
Then I would say it's all the kids being walked up to the arena the day it opened.
I remember walking up to the arena when it opened because they took all the school children up. I remember going out onto the playground, the whole elementary school, learning to say hip hip hooray together as a group to thank her for her generosity.
I was teaching in St. George, and I wasn't going to miss this for the world. I decided that I was going to take the day off. Shoot, at that stage of the game, I had to pay a supply teacher $75 to attend this function. And fiddlesticks, I wasn't making $75 a month, let alone pay somebody $75 a day. But hey, I was there. My nose was pressed against the glass down in one corner.
Well, here's the story. I didn't see it, but when Lady B cut the ribbon, she read some thank you, one from Winston Churchill. Churchill would have known the beaver.
Well, in '62, the arena opened originally with a curling rink and the ice hockey rink alone, and the bowling alley came along.
I remember being in the arena the night Kennedy was assassinated. That afternoon, Johnny Holmes and I, when the ice maker come back and he says, Kennedy was shot. And he was always pulling our leg, and we didn't believe him. That night, the whole curling club head house was gutted, and it melted all their trophies. I mean, people don't remember that, but of course I keep a journal. It happened on the 22nd November 1963.
They just got it nicely going, and upstairs they had a nice bar, and it burnt in the end of the curling club. Bill and I took a day or two off, went up, helped clean up.
We had 3 high school teams that won provincials, 63, 64, and 84. My son played on the 84 team.
Oh, yeah?
At the time, NB high school competition was broken into two classes, M for the smaller schools and L for the larger ones like St. John, Frederick, and Moncton. In 1964, Vincent Massey High had won the Class M. The Fredericton High School had won the Class L. So we challenged Fredericton to a winner-take-all to claim the best high school team of the year. Though unofficial, that 1964 team could use it for bragging rights. It was a two-game total goal playoff. First game was played in the Lady Beaverbrook rink in Fredericton to a hard-fought 3-3 tie. Game 2 was played back in St. Andrews with Vincent Massey High pounding the Fredericton Black Cats 8-3. So we won the two-game series 11-6. To make no mistake, we had the best high school hockey team that year. The final game in the arena was jam-packed and the noise and smoke was unbelievable. Of course, you could smoke in the arena back in those days. Yeah. The Fredericton Daily Gleaner had a sports page headline. Where did all the goals and the fans come from? Their high school team had never played in a full rink with just a zoo. Skip Aitken, that would be Nancy Aitken's son. Mm-hmm. Him and Greg McCullough's nephew, Brian McCullough. Uh-huh. Two real good hockey. My son Eric played, he played on defense. They won 84, which I refereed. Through the years, I kept in touch with Scotty Bowman. In the early 60s, I was the caddy master at the golf course. The first year of the hockey school, Scotty came here, and of course an avid golfer. He was the coach of the Montreal Junior Canadians. Scotty got me tickets in Montreal, Buffalo, and when we had the Canada Cup, he gave me a shoebox full of tickets. And I took a bunch of guys from here. He had us right into the Montreal dressing room. You know, a couple hours before a game, met everybody. Which, you know, not everybody gets to do that.
My understanding is the hockey school started about 1963. It was a creation of Bill O'Neill. By all accounts that I ever heard, it was the first hockey school of its kind, and it was many people copied it or tried to, but it was the right installation, the right town. It was perfect here because they had ice. They would have the ice in the summer, and the tourists could come, the people could vacation, have their children in hockey school. And it seems to me the Blues were here in 66, 67 for a couple of seasons in a row. And Scotty Bowman was at that time the manager of the St. Louis Blues. So that meant that at that point, when the ice was in the arena in September to accommodate the Blues, and with the hockey school in the summer, there was ice in the arena in the summer to accommodate the hockey school. So the ice surface was there most of the year. So the hockey school was a remarkably successful adventure, and but it did peak in the early 70s, and then there was a lot more competition after that. Everybody else saw the model that St. Andrews had created and started to try and make a similar program locally. It was fair enough. I mean, first in the market, and then you always have competition after a year succeeds. But 71 was the end of the construction of the building.
John McFarland was killed in 1971 building the addition when they upgraded it. This was in the spring of 71. Bill died that April. They said it upset Bill so much, and of course he had heart problems, and he died suddenly, 1971. The town was shocked.
Bill was a St. X graduate, a very successful businessman, and a guy who had incredible contacts. I mean, he was just one of those people who could bring things together, make them happen. For more than a promoter, a guy who would bring the detail to work.
He was very interested in engineering, interested in electrical engineering, technology. I think it would be because of him that they had the light. He was very interested in music, making films. He had a big telescope. He was a man for all seasons. He had great interpersonal skills. People trusted him. They had these grand ideas, and he could get people to go along with them.
He started his career with an outdoor natural ice rink in the early 1930s and ended it as manager of the Sir James Dunn Arena.
At the time that Bill died, He had plans for another ice service because the capacity couldn't get enough ice time. And he had this plan to have an indoor swimming pool as a part of the hockey school complex, I suppose for cross-training and also for leisure and just for the community. It would have probably been in the area where the tennis courts are now, would have had to excavate that back parking lot.
Rolly McClenahan and John Mahar collaborated with Bill to have St. Andrews and that facility become summer training ground for the Olympics. And I can remember on our dining room table in what's now the Frederick Street Inn, him showing us the blueprints of all of the plans, and they were going to have a track all the way out to the Bar Road, and they had begun to buy homes around the area which were going to be used for the development of a new, bigger complex, which would be a national site for summer game. And of course, my uncle was initiated into the New Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame as a builder.
St. Andrews was the home of a builder of amateur sport programs and a variety of special events that were the envy of cities many times the size of this Charlotte County shire town. That builder was Bill O'Neill. Bill was a founding member of the St. Andrews Amateur Athletic Association, 1929, and served as the unpaid manager of the town's hockey rinks. He established the St. Andrews Hockey School, which was staffed by National Hockey League players and coaches and considered the best of its kind in North America. He arranged many hockey and skating exhibitions, such as those by figure skater Barbara Ann Scott and Sonia Haney. The town arena was renamed in his honor in 1992.
After he died, I remember there was a big roast for Bill O'Neill. Many dignitaries came. We all had lobster in a box. Bleachers were full and the floor of the arena was full, and all these people gave tribute to my uncle.
Well, they're kids from out of town. I was a local hockey referee from 1957 to 1997. So before memories fade, we should mention a few who refereed through the years. Love them or hate them, games couldn't be played without them. They included Ralph Graham, that would be David's father, Henry Irwin, Bill Garnett, Lee Williamson, George Goodall, Harry MacNichol, Red Sharkey. Sure, I missed some people, but maybe others can help you. But those are the ones I remember going to the old arena. Then there were the professional hockey games played here with many NHL stars. I refereed a great exhibition game between the St. Louis Blues and their farm team, the Kansas City Blues. Kind of a highlight of a small town's refereeing career.
The MacNichol brothers received an award from Mayor Hashey for all their contributions to the betterment of local hockey. Harry played for the Senators, as did Allison, Pickle, and Tommy. Harry was a referee with Hugh Graham for several years and coached many minor hockey teams. Pickle coached the Senators for years and was a star in the OHL and captain of the 1942 Allen Cup winners when it was one step below the NHL. Tommy coached high school hockey for years and won several provincial championships. He was Hugh Graham's coach when they won the 1964 NB Provincial High School Hockey Championship. Tommy was also the first ice maker at the new Sir James Dunn Arena when it opened in 1962.
2 years ago in the summer, we got a call from Scotty Bowman. He'd like to come to St. Andrews one more time. So we had a lovely afternoon with them. And we were reminded of the time that my uncle died in 1971, and it was the playoffs, and he was in St. Louis. And as soon as that game was finished, he and his wife flew to Boston late at night. They rented a car, and they drove all night to get to my uncle's funeral. They hit a moose on the airline route. And I can remember being at the funeral, and it was just packed. And the service was held up for 10 or 15 minutes. They'd been told that Scotty had just crossed the border, and so they came in. And that's how much Scotty thought of my uncles, Bill and John O'Neill.
Hockey Day in Canada. That doesn't look like a puck. Craft dinner is not just tasty. St. Andrews is Hockeyville.